Welcome to Silent Service. My name is Will. That is Matt smiling there on the camera. We are on for episode 15, which we call The Journey is the Destination. So, Matt, how are you today?
I'm great. The big 1-5. We made
The,
it to episode 15. Let's go.
the big 1-5. We're a freshman in high school. Let's go. Excited for the next four.
It took me a minute. I was like, 15. Is that like grade 15? Oh, 15 years old. Okay. I got it.
Yeah.
I got it. I was 16 when I was a freshman because I was like one of the only freshmen with a car and a license.
Oh,
So I guess I was a little bit older going into my freshman year. And then I ended up graduating a little bit early because
oh,
I was older in my grade and wanted to get out of school and start making money.
right. Got to get the life started, you know?
That's it. Got to get life started.
So, I'd love to hear your maps. I'd love to check in on how you're doing.
All right, yeah, let's get into it. Mentally, I am feeling grateful. Emotionally, I am feeling fortunate. Physically, I'm feeling very durable, and spiritually, I am glowing.
Amazing.
How about
Durable.
you? How are you doing?
Did you have a good workout this morning or
I
something?
did. Great workout. Yep. Last night was great, with you and I together. So that was awesome. So I think I was still on a high from last night. That kind of trickled over into this morning. So
Yeah, yeah, no, me too. As soon as we jumped on the call, I wanted to start yapping about that, but I figured we could serve the listener in a better fashion through the topic of this episode.
yeah, for sure. I
But
agree with that.
conversation to be continued. Me personally, I am mentally feeling empathetic. Emotionally, I'm feeling cheerful. Physically, I'm feeling uneasy. The reason is because I missed my workout this morning. I was up late editing. Yeah, editing. It didn't take too much, but just had to get that done. So also wanted to prioritize sleeping a little bit. So I missed that. Bummer. We'll do that later. And spiritually, I'm feeling peaceful. So
Awesome. Awesome. I love it. I
yeah,
love it. And just a little context for those that are listening. Will and I are looking at potentially acquiring a business. So we've been doing a little bit of night work together. Yesterday was a tour of the facility. So that's why we were together. We'll provide more context though as time goes on.
right. Yeah. No, I'm excited to talk about this in an episode with you, listener, because this idea of acquisition entrepreneurship, which Matt has introduced me to, is fascinating. And gosh, it's so cool waking up in the morning to be excited about what I get to do, and I'm sure as you are, Matt. So,
I am.
um,
And that's the goal for everyone listening to wake up excited about what you're going to be doing today, the life
yeah,
that you're building, the career that you're building, the business that you're building, the
yeah,
family, the relationships that you're building. Like you should be
totally.
excited for tomorrow.
Yeah, because you get to do whatever it is you do, and you don't live in the Middle Ages or something where you're looking for your next meal. Like you just
Yeah.
we're all incredibly blessed.
Yeah. And like before we go on, like I always think, I do think about this all the time, and it usually hits me right in like a really hot shower. I think about all the time how back in the day, in order to have a hot shower, like let's go back to the year of 1800, like to think about like the modern day plumbing systems that we so take for granted today, like to have hot water, the number of servants it required to continuously bring, hot water to a tub. Like there wasn't even a shower, to be able to utilize. So to think the lives that we live today, even at the lowest level in America, is still better than the best lives, from hundreds of years ago, especially when you look at like life expectancy, health, infant mortality rates. It's like we live in such a better time and place today. And for us to have electricity, running water, air conditioning, hot showers, the ability to buy something off of Amazon and have it shipped to us, in a day or two, like this would require hundreds and hundreds of servants going back, 100, 200 years ago. So I think about that all the time. And I think about how grateful I am to have these basics of life that we all take for granted because they didn't exist like 100, 200 years ago. So it's just fascinating to think about. I don't know if you ever thought about that, but I at least wanted to share, as a, part of reflection, this morning.
Completely. I think about how lucky and blessed I am frequently, and this reminds me of a time, a story. I won't share to go in depth on it, but I never told you, Matt. I did a leave no trace backpacking course through the National Outdoor Leadership School uh, several years back at this point, but it was in Lander, Wyoming, in this region of Wyoming called the Wind River Range. Yeah, Wind River Range, and I had a backpack 50 pounds, hiked 107 miles or so, and I used to put my water bottle outside of the tent so the rain I could have water in the morning.
Hmm.
Otherwise, I'd have to wait until the next stream and filter the water. So it, even just to have a cup of
That's
water
wild.
from a tap or a Brita or what have you
Sure.
is really just, phenomenal. And I think of it as the Lord blessing me in ways that I don't even know. Just to have something that most people wanted so badly that don't have it as easy as I have now. It's fascinating to think
It's
about.
true. Yeah, it's true. And I do find great solace, whenever I'm feeling not the best, whether it's due to like comparison, comparing myself against someone else who has something that I desire that I don't yet have, or, during the chaos of business, as different challenges arise. I find great solace being able to move back to that, grateful just exercise, just like stopping and just thinking about the basics of life and to be just so incredibly grateful for what we have. It helps reposition like the mindset and gets me out of that negative funk into that more positive light, if you will. So I do think
Totally,
it's a tactic and a strategy that more people should practice with and experiment with to see like what works for them because we're all
totally,
different.
totally. And I think practicing this idea of minimalism is important too. In America, or the people that I've been around, we're always thinking like, oh, I want that, I want that. It's our culture really. But if we can figure out and understand that less is actually more, understanding that simple is always far superior to complex, right? Even when talking about people, if people are able to explain things in a simple way, that's much more attractive than a complicated way,
Sure.
especially when you're talking to somebody that's highly intelligent. When they can break it down in a simple way, we love that. And
Hmm.
that stems from our nature as well. So yeah.
So true.
Great, great chatting with you today, Matt. What I want to talk about is this idea again that the journey is the destination, and the idea of this episode came to me came to us because I talked about it with you beforehand through the book I just finished, Inner Excellence, and there's a quote in there. This guy, and he's talking about goals and outcomes, and all of a sudden he goes, I don't care about the summit. I'm enjoying the climb. And it relates to something that you've always shared or you've said a few times to me, and that is that work is the goal, right? We're all trying to get somewhere, be something, but the goal is work because as soon as you achieve this goal, you know, a highly ambitious person is going to be like, what's next,
Right.
right?
Right.
Go back
Yeah.
back to work.
It's true.
So,
Yep, true. It's just like logically, like we can't ignore luck and circumstances and how they play a role in obtaining certain outcomes. So, like luck is a real thing. Like one can be lucky, one can be unlucky, bad things can happen, acts of God and so forth. But the one controllable is how hard we work, what we do with our time, how we invest our time, what we focus on, the things that we put into our mind, the things that we watch on TV, right? These are all controllable variables. The food that we put in our mouth, whether we're active, whether we work out, right? All of these things are controllable for us. So at the end of the day, like I don't think anyone's goal is to have, on their tombstone, like Will Diesel, net worth, 200 million. It's like, so what? Like, who cares? You can't take the money or the materialism with you. So at end of life, when you think about, like an obituary, and I know that may be a little dark, maybe a little bit glum, and like especially for you, Will, being so young, and just thinking about like what would
you're
I
young
want people
too.
to say about me? Yeah, I'm young, right? I'm 34, you're 24. But
Yeah.
it's like thinking through like what would I want like my family, the people that I care about like deeply in my life. How would I want them to remember me? And I would hope that they remember me as like that person worked hard. Like that person was disciplined. That person worked hard. They did the right thing. Like that's what I want. That's more about the legacy, that I'm focused on. Because in reality, like I don't care who you are. like on the face of this earth. I don't care how famous you are. I mean, I'll just give you an example. I mean, when was the last time, Will, you thought of Betty White?
Not till since right now, long time, maybe a couple
Years,
years. Yeah.
right? She passed away a few years ago. How famous she was, yet no one's thinking about her or talking about her today. And again, I don't mean to be like gloom, but like it's not like the materialism, it's not the wealth, that matters.
Yeah.
It's like the work that we can ultimately control that matters. And the destination is not the goal in of itself, it's the journey. And one can look at experience. And keep in mind, like education, as we've discussed, can only be obtained one of three ways. Formal education, like attending college as an example, higher education. It can be gained through experience, trial and error, making mistakes, not repeating them. And lastly, it can be learned through the experiences of others, mentors, books, right? Like you can gain experience and wisdom there. So, from my perspective, we can look at those that were incredibly successful on the face of this planet. And there are tremendous biographies, bibliographies, interviews, every individual who has achieved magnificent like success as measured based upon dollars attained will say upon an exit, upon the end of the journey, like the most fun aspect of life, when I felt most alive, the most enjoyable part of life was doing hard things with people that they really liked. And those hard things generally were the building of whatever that business may have been. So it is always the journey that is fun, but it's fun in hindsight. It's not necessarily fun while you're doing it. But in those moments of like hardship, like I do think about, 5, 10 years from now, I'm like, this is going to be the memory of like the best times of my life was going through this hard thing, this journey, like waking up, figuring out, right, the world, the complex world that we live in, how I'm going to make a mark, how you're going to make a mark. Like that's fun.
Yeah.
I don't
Totally.
know what one would do if they had, right, everything that they ever wanted. There's now no mission, no purpose. Like to me, that's like a very hollow, type life.
Right.
And I think you find that with like lottery winners, right? Like you find that with lottery winners. Sometimes, you do see it with, like young professional athletes, where they walk into a substantial amount of money. However, they still have like the game, competition as the mission purpose. So it's not quite the same. But, like with a lottery winner, where they end up gaining everything, financially speaking, most of them end up destroying their lives because there now is no longer a purpose. There is now no longer a mission. There is no work for them to do. Therefore, work itself becomes the goal.
Right.
So, like, that's what the goal should be. It is to work hard. And if you knew that you could not have worked any harder on this particular task, you now should have the self-confidence enhancement, right, in your self-belief. You've made the man upstairs proud because that's ultimately why we're here on this planet, is to be able to serve the Lord. Like, what else would you want?
Did somebody say amen? Was that you, listener?
Let's go. Amen.
No, but it reminds me of I love what you're saying, Matt. It reminds me of Brad Jacobs, right? Start a billion-dollar company, exit or retain
Yeah,
your seat as chairman, start another one, which when we were on the phone last night, I saw an XPO truck for the first time and I was like, oh my gosh, but I
there it
wasn't
is.
gonna interrupt one of Brad Jacobs' company's super
Mhm.
cool guy. Um, but yeah, that's yeah,
Have
it's
um have, have we shared the John Rockefeller parable on this podcast yet by chance?
I believe we might have touched on the title of it with regards
Okay.
to John, but I don't believe we've
You want to
explained it in
talk about
full.
it? Because like it's one of those parables that I've never forgotten about. I've repeated it multiple times, and I think it's so meaningful. So
Yeah,
like I'm happy to cover it, or you can cover it if you'd like.
yeah,
Do you have a preference?
yeah, I'll go for it. So
Please.
basically John in if I'm not correct, please tell me, but in the book 38 letters that John D. Rockefeller wrote to his son, there is a parable in the book. And the way that it goes is this person gets to this holy place, right? And he's able to have and enjoy whatever he wants. I'm talking fancy restaurants, fancy vacation, and he's surrounded by all of his favorite people, right? He couldn't be happier. Um, and once you enjoy all the foods that you love, all the vacations that you love, and you do all these activities that you love, be it your favorite hobby, your favorite sport, and you're doing these things all the time, eventually you want maybe a little bit of structure in your life. And so he goes to this person, he goes to this godly person, and he's like, I'm kind of bored, right? He's been on this 6 month vacation or whatever, doing what he loves, and he's like, I'm kind of bored. I'd like to do something else, some kind of work, some kind of structure for fulfillment's sake. May I do that? He says to this godly person. And he goes, you see, that is the one thing you can't do here. And he goes, well, what do you mean? Like, that seems like some kind of hell. I want to do something for work. And this godly person goes, well, where do you think you are? You're in hell. So we have to work. It is so vital to our sanity to be able to have something to improve upon daily. So, for those of you out there that are wondering, why my next vacation hasn't come yet, or when I'm going to be able to take my next day off, realize that you would very well go nuts if you didn't have a job. I mean, think about it this way. There is somebody out there that is praying to have the job that you currently possess, especially
Hmm.
in this job market.
Hmm.
So if you think about it that way, you might just become more grateful for what you have and think a little bit less about that next vacation you've been looking to plan. So,
It's just so real, right? Like before Eve, what did God give Adam? He gave him work to do. We were designed to work as humans. The harder the work, the hotter the fire, the stronger the steel. Like we were designed to work. So, from my perspective, profitability and capital should always follow mission and purpose. We should not be doing things for the attainment of like monetary gain and monetary possessions. We should be focused on fulfilling a mission and or a purpose. And by accomplishing said mission and or purpose, the financial rewards just follow. Are you following me?
definitely, yeah.
So
Yeah.
like every motive that I've ever seen that was designed to attain greater financial success has led to failure or ruin. Look, I don't know of any individuals who set out purposely to build a business like to exit, actually accomplish that goal like from day one.
hmm
I just haven't seen it. Like I'm sure that there are examples, but examples that I have not come across.
Right. Examples maybe you don't even want to know about because that success is hollow and there's no real legacy, right? They're not.
Yeah, but like at the end of the day, like let's say someone does, have the desire, right, to earn a lot of money really early on in life, we'll call it by 30 and then retire. Because like that is a general thought, especially of a younger, generation demographic in the United States. It's like I want to amass a lot of money as quickly as possible. I want to work hard when I'm young and I want to be retired at 30. It's like great. Be retired at 30 to then do what? Because I was in a position where I was semi-retired for like approximately a year. Yeah, like I had substantial income coming in from the assets that I have. I don't need to work. And, I was just thinking, wait a minute, like I'm just going to dedicate all of my time and energy into my family. I got little kids right now, so I'm just going to invest and pour into them. And I remember having a conversation with my father about this, and he was like, what are you going to do next? You're like, are you gonna start something? You gonna buy a business? Like, what are you gonna do? And I remember talking to him about like, Pops, like, I think I'm just gonna take it easy for right now and just, pour into my two kids. And he's like, yeah, I understand that. He's like, but doesn't your daughter go into school next year? And then your son's going to follow. So what are you gonna do when they're in school? And I was like, ooh, you got me on that one. I'm
Oh
not quite
gosh.
sure like what I would do during the day while they're at school.
Yeah.
It's just like, okay, like really play it out. You have a pile of money, making it up, Will. You got $20 million after tax sitting in the bank that's producing you, we'll call it about $800,000 of income from risk-free treasury notes. So you have no risk to your capital. You're making 800K. You don't need to work. Like, what are you going to do with your day? So if you think about this, And I'm cutting you off real quick because I could see like you're ready to answer. But as you think about this, what you would be doing if you had that level of wealth, that financial resources and freedom of time, that's probably what you should be doing today because that's where true purpose and passion and mission actually lies. Does that make sense?
Hmm. Yep. Yep. And I feel like like the big man upstairs, he's looking down at me smiling because I would want to do what we're currently doing and what we'll talk with you, the listener, about in the next couple episodes for free. I
Same,
re
man. Same.
I really would. I mean, I'd go to Fort Myers and hang out with our small group and just enjoy the time and learn for free. And I will just say this quick thing about just our conversation last night on the way back from Fort Myers. You said you wanted to hop off the phone just to think. I did the same thing. No music, no nothing. I just thought.
I thought that was a little rude. I hope you didn't take it that way because I was
No,
just sick of talking. I
I
was like, I'm
didn't,
sorry, guys. I just want to think.
I didn't think it was. I thought
Okay,
it
okay.
was.
I felt a little bad afterwards, so I'm glad you took it well.
I thought it was admirable. I mean, obviously, because I did the same thing.
Sure.
Maybe that's just a mentee in me. But I remember I was thinking back on a few things I said, and I was like, wow, I had no idea what I said just a couple weeks ago. And I didn't think I would be able to, you know, um, respond in a manner that I had. But it's just through learning a few things, thanks to you and thanks to what I get to do, that I knew the answers. And I was like, wow, that's so tremendous. And maybe
That's
it sounds
cool.
basic, but to me, I was like, that's so cool. So,
That is cool. Yeah, that is
um,
really cool.
but just for the sake of time here, I do want to jump into just a couple of questions I have for you, Matt. These were sent in by a listener. Shout out to Colby, and there's also one in here from me. But would you mind if I just kicked it off with one that's top of
No,
mind?
let's go. Yeah, let's get into
Cool.
it.
So I mean, there was one question up here which we've kind of gotten into already. Just you don't need to work anymore. What compels you to continue? We know that.
Mhm.
Um, you know, this one is interesting, but what would be your number one focus? This is Colby saying if you were in his shoes. So we won't specify the company he works for, but he's a 23-year-old in his first year of his professional career. So obviously broad in terms of industry, but what do you think is if there was just one thing he could focus on, and this is an individual that is interested in gaining wealth, not just from his salary, but he's ambitious, he wants to be able to provide his family. If you could boil down his to-do list to one thing, what do you think he should do?
Read.
Read.
A lot of reading.
A lot of reading. Well,
I
you
mean,
heard it in.
in knowledge comes power. So to be able to change one's position, it can be changed via education and knowledge.
Yeah.
Like that's really what I would be focused on, and I would be, digging deep into truly like the life that I want to live, the amount of capital that I want to have in my life, what I intend to do with it. Is it real? Like what sacrifices am I willing to make to attain the things that I say that I want? Like, do I have the will to actually do the work to be able to get these things?
Hmm.
So if I'm young and I'm putting myself back into the shoes, that I was in, over a decade ago, because like, well, that was me. Like I was that 23-year-old, like who wanted, a lot of money. I did want wealth for myself. And at 23, I hadn't become, like a millionaire yet or anything like that. So, like I was in a very similar position. I think I was in probably like substantial debt still because I took out student loans to attend Rollins College. And story for another day, I took out student loans to buy a business. It's not something that's legal. It's frowned upon. I would not suggest anyone to do it. But story for another day. It's actually a really funny story. So we could definitely unpack that later. But I had debt service that I had to cover. And I was also looking to, advance my career and, begin saving as much money as I possibly could. Where I turned was books, knowledge, and education. So whenever I had spare excess capital, that capital was not saved. It was not invested into the S&P 500, Nvidia, right? No, that capital was used to buy books. And I said to myself, I think it was around 21, maybe 22, and I made a commitment to myself. And I was dating my now wife at the time, so it was my girlfriend at the time. I remember looking at her and being like, Colleen, like I need you to help me. ensure that this rule exists. And that rule is like I will have no budget for education and books. So like if there's any book that I want, like I'm not going to let money stand in the way. And that came ultimately from like a Jim Rohn quote, where it was not what the book cost you, it's what it will cost you if you don't read it. So like I took that to heart and I was just like, I want to learn as much as I possibly can. So of course, where I started was relevant information related to knowledge that could help me advance my career in the existing position that I was in. So at the time, I was in sales. So I needed to enhance like skill, aptitude, competency when it came to sales, closing, percentages, and so forth. So it led me down this route of like reading books on psychology, books on persuasion. Shout out to Robert Cialdini because I think he single-handedly like changed my life in teaching me how to communicate through these books. So I would suggest reading first and foremost, like reading, like constantly be reading and absorbing as much information as possible. And then following that, I would be looking to save as much money as I possibly can and do whatever it takes to live within my means, substantially under my means, making specific sacrifices that I'm okay with. And knowing in the future, I'll look back and, like I'll laugh, like I'll laugh at some of these sacrifices. I mean, like I do it today all the time. And like what ultimately, my perspective is, it's like you got to get that you got to get your first nut like saved. Like you got to get your first, chunk of money saved because not only will it provide you with peace of mind in terms of, a catastrophe, a medical circumstance, an accident, auto vehicle accident, it will give you peace of mind. In addition, God forbid you lose your job, right? Again, you're not entirely stressed because, you're not going to lose your house. Like you have a little cushion.
Hmm.
So the name of the game for me would be establishing that cushion. Like I want to determine what that cushion is. For me, I'd be looking at how much I burn on a monthly basis, and I would want several months, of cushion. Once I get several months of cushion underway, whether that takes a year, 2 years, 3 years, it does not matter. If that means, again, I have to look towards selling different items, finding like a little side hustle on the weekend, like doing what Gary Vee does with the garage sales, like flipping items. Gosh, there's another name for like thrifting, right? Like finding nice clothes and then selling them on eBay, different things like that, or doing DoorDash or Uber, right? However, we can earn additional income to save, ultimately to use that as a launching pad for buying a business or starting a business. Because for this individual, like Colby, if you're listening, like you're going to have to get your hands on equity within a business, or you're going to have to get yourself into business ownership in some capacity in the next like 5 to 10 years. If you want to be able to achieve like the lifestyle that I truly believe, like I think I know what you really want.
Hmm.
And that's what it would take. But the good news is like we have time. We have a lot of runway. Being
Hmm.
23, 24, 25, there is so much runway ahead. And if the thought is right, like, oh gosh, I may never get ultimately to where I want to go, it's like, let's just stop and let's just think about the power of compounding one more time. So remember, we've already talked about the rule of 72. We can take any percentage return that we're getting in the open market and we can divide it into 72 to see how long it would take us for that money to double. So if we're looking at like the stock market, just a general index fund like the S&P 500, it's produced just over 10% over the last century, 100 years. So, I'm not saying the past, will ultimately be the same, in the future. However, one could reasonably expect an ongoing 10% annual rate of return. So we're talking about a double every 7.2 years, right? 72 divided by 10 is 7.2. So you're going to get a double every 7.2 years. So this individual, we said was 23. So let's just look at and do some math. So let's just go and say retirement age is 65 minus 23 is 42 years, right? 42 years of compounding. Divide this by 7, which means that there are going to be 6 doubles. That is 2 to the power of 6, which is 64. So whatever capital can be saved today, this year, we're talking about 64 times that number at 65. So if this individual could save $10,000, $10,000 times 64 times 640 grand from 1 year of saving 10,000. I get saving 10,000 is hard, right? Especially after tax dollars. Is it possible? Absolutely, it's possible. One has to live well within their means.
Right.
They have to spend less than they earn. That's what
Definitely.
has to happen.
You can't save what
However,
you spend.
correct. But if I save 10 grand today, 10 grand, that's 640,000 that future me gets to enjoy in retirement. Next year, will another 10 grand. Guess what? It's another 640K. But now my first year of investing 10, my 640 is now way larger, right? If you were just to do the math and look at saving 10 grand a year, 10, 10, 10, 10, you are going to have multi mega millions into retirement, more money than one would ever know what to do with. So, like, we can't forget about the slow journey of compounding wealth. I understand everyone wants to get there tomorrow. We all do. We want to get there fast. I get that. But that is a part of society with Instagram shorts and TikToks and like how quickly frames move. Like our attention span is diminishing, our
It's
ability to
not helping.
focus is
Yeah.
diminishing dramatically. And everything you see on social media is fake. It's why I'm not on it. Like I just refuse to participate in such a fake world. So when you see these, like 30-year-old kids, with Lambos, like most of them aren't even real. Like it's just fake. It's
Yeah.
fugazi. It's what you get to see that's not real. But what I need to focus on is my education. I need to focus on my work ethic. What am I doing when I get home? Am I sitting on the couch? Am I playing Call of Duty? Am I learning? Am I engaging in skill development? Like it's the hours after work that you are intended to work on yourself. And
Yep.
I've said it and I've said it and I've said it and I'll say it again. You need to be working harder on yourself than you are on your job. So for this individual, Colby specifically, that's my question back. Are you working harder on yourself than you are in your job?
And it's also not about what you do when you have to be at your job. It's about what you do when you don't have to be there.
Correct. And
So,
that's what so many people miss. So I would be reading, I would wanting to be understanding the great game of business because business men specifically and women, businessmen and women make the most money in this world,
right.
hands down,
Yep.
not even a comparison. Not saying that this podcast is driven towards people, who want a lot of money, because that's not the theme. That's not the purpose, of this podcast.
Right.
But for this individual, I do know financial success means a lot to them.
Yep.
But that's what I would be spending time. I would be spending time on reading and then doing whatever I can to save. If
Right.
you want to know what I would be reading for this individual, tune in to the next episode and I'll create a list.
Definitely. Definitely. And just a hint, there's a great book about saving and how you shouldn't spend. Millionaire Next Door. You might like that one,
Yeah, it's a
Colby,
good book.
or any listener. But well, great. Matt, thanks for blessing us with your lessons. And I did just include a quick quote of the day here for the listener from this book. Quote by Jim Murphy: I compete to raise the level of excellence in my life, to learn and grow in order to raise it in others. So by participating in silent service for yourself, you automatically help others because you become more valuable to them. So it's a nice way to think about it. But on top of that, once again, thank you, Matt, and we'll see you guys in the next episode.
Ciao for now.
Ciao for now.